sure while we get this wireless microphone thing checked out here. So as long as everybody can see me and hear me right here, we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to dive right in. Now, first thing I want to point out to you guys, well, what I want to do first is welcome everybody on board. Is it anyone's first time visiting Seattle? Well, very nice. Welcome to the city. You guys picked a lovely time to come. It's going to be a lot of fun out here. Now, the first vessel I'd like to point out to you is this larger boat here named the Excellence. And then the other thing is there can be no more than 507 of them inside the city limits of Seattle at any given time. So, as you're looking at these floating homes, you can kind of tell the difference from the old ones heading on all of planet Earth. So, the founder of this park wanted to say, hey, let's try to preserve this, get some local history here. He did his job. He preserved a portion of those refinery canisters there, and then when they demolished most of that park, they put it underneath that hill there. That hill is called Pike Hill. Now it's a bunch of rubble over it, but if you are looking for a fantastic place to watch the 4th of July fireworks, it's extremely intimate. It'll just be you and 60,000 of your closest friends hanging out on top of Pike Hill. It's an absolutely fantastic place to go check it out. Coming up here, we're going to have another example of some floating homes, but we are actually going to get a chance to look at some moving turnout. All right, guys, well, coming up in view here is going to be this tan house, brown roof, orange life ring, got a park bench right in front of it. This is the home that was used for the exterior shots in Sleepless in Seattle. Now, it's got a couple of funny stories to it. Of course, it's a rom-com, so there's a comedy part of it. However, it's about how they filmed it. We all know that the storyline took place between December and February. However, if you are going to film a movie here in Seattle, it's not too common that you would film it here through December through February because the sun sets so dang early. We get about a 4 p.m. sunset in the dead of winter around here. So they decided they were going to film it in May, June, springtime. That way they can still get a little bit of our notorious cloudy weather and then have longer daylight hours to do it. Well, as it turns out, that was the hottest and driest major scene in Pike Place Market. Where they're walking through and they're in the rear here, but if you look in the background, all the non-paid extras, us Seattleites love it. Turn that valve in, expelling all of that water back out, lifting those vessels out of the water, leaving them high and dry, which is actually where that term came from. Additionally, these came through our locks today, and because we're heading back the entire country, you guys are getting a pretty good example of how healthy that loading culture is out here. Just ahead of us is going to be the George Washington Memorial Bridge. Do we have any locals up here on the top deck? Now, when I say George Washington Memorial Bridge, you guys are probably looking at me like I'm a maniac because we all know it as the Aurora Bridge or the 99 Bridge. But what's really impressive is that we have here, and then it's also home to the Fremont Troll, if we haven't had a chance. So, houseboats are different in that aspect. They do not have to pay property taxes, but the kicker is they have to be able to get off the dock under their own propulsion, meaning that giant 4-story home is essentially just a giant floating RV. So it's pretty cool to see something like that. Now we're heading under one of the lowest bridges here in the Fremont Bridge, just a little bit over 30 feet high. So we clear that very narrowly by a couple feet. But the reason that we know we're going to make it every single day without getting a haircut is because of the locking system that we're about to go through. They help maintain the lake level within 1 to 2 feet throughout the entire year. Now, we are entering the neighborhood of Fremont. Fascinating enough, they have their own. Right-hand side, we're going to have the Ballard Concrete Company. And then on the left-hand side, we're going to have another way to live on the water. It's called live-aboard. Live-aboards are certain slips that you can buy in your marinas. So if you're looking, some of these boats look pretty nice. Some of these boats look, well, not so nice. We're here in Seattle called brewed by Elysia. It's called Space Dust. A very popular bought by Budweiser. One of the brewmasters there did not want to work for a big corporation. Now he helped design that recipe for Space Dust. So he went and opened up his own brewery here in Ballard called Cloudburst, making a recipe very similar to Space Dust. Today this one opens up about half of that. Still pretty impressive for a bridge to open up 15 times a day. Now, on that topic, if you're not like us and you don't have a radio that can talk to the attendant, you just ring it and sail those. If you want that bridge to open up for you, you give it one long horn followed by one short horn. Union, there's a vessel I like to talk about that we can't see right away. It's called the North Star. And for the small fee of 430,000 euros a week, you can go ahead and take that out. such as sea lions or harbor seals. So if you do see a little shiny black head sticking out of the water area of Shilshole Bay. Now Shilshole, it's got a little bit of a different meaning. So the native word translates roughly to threading the needle, and that's going to make a whole lot more sense when we make our way out into the Puget Sound right now. But Shilshole Bay has a pretty unique way of storing their boats. When you guys got onto our dock, Shilshole Bay is also home to one of the funniest stories to ever take place with wildlife here. For that, I'm going to talk to you guys about Herschel the hungry sea lion. Now, Herschel the hungry sea lion, it was back in the 90s or so. Herschel and his gang of about 10 flew him out to the coast of Washington. The very next day, Herschel met him at the gates of Shilshole Bay, consuming further. They put him in another helicopter ride, and he went all the way down to Southern California. They took a little bit of a pit stop on the way back up. By the time they got back, Herschel was already back here eating salmon. Now, it's not too, we don't know exactly what happened to Herschel. Maybe there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. But Herschel stopped coming around these parts. However, his buddies did hang out for a few more years. They said, well, since you want all-you-can-eat salmon, we're going to ship you off to a place that has all-you-can-eat food. They sent a couple of his buddies out to SeaWorld, and they've been doing Ray's Boathouse, saying, hey, here's an offer to buy your domain name. Ray's Boathouse replies with just 2 words, and that is, go Mariners. And so, Ray's Boathouse, nothing better than that level of pettiness. I'm a big fan. Now, as we're making our way out of Shilshole Bay Marina, now over here on our right-hand side, you're going to notice a big series of sailboat masts. Well, this is Shilshole Bay Marina. Now, it is the largest public marina that we have here in the West Coast. It holds about 1,200 slips inside of it. So this is awards anywhere on the West Coast. It has about 350 families that call their boats home that live in this community here. So like I had mentioned, 15 nights a week, but this has some pretty great amenities to it. So if you are going to live on your boat, you're going to notice it doesn't have a lot of the amenities that you might be used to, like laundry service. Now that we're entering this portion of the tour, we're going to kind of divide our land masses in two. So this land mass that we see over here, you guys are going to have to get used to that because we're going to be seeing it for quite some time. It's pretty much going to be on this side of the vessel until we get back to our home ports. I'm going to let Captain Bill get a little bit further in the water, and then we're going to continue the tour on here a little bit. Right now we're confined to a 7-knot speed limit. You just heard the engines kick up a little bit. So once we start rounding this curve, we'll be home fast. Now, if you guys are out on the bow, you're going to notice a little bit of a timber than our lake water out there. So if you may getting a little warm, fear not, the boat is about to cool down significantly. Now, here's the thing starboard side is going to be your best bet right now, the Holland America Western Dam. One thing that you brainiacs might not have known, all cruises go to Alaska from Seattle. They don't go to Holy City, Washington on the Columbia River. Generates so much power, we all fast because the grain creates static, causing a spark, igniting that whole thing on fire. That would be bad. And then you can't load it in the rain if it gets even a little bit wet. The entire hull and hull partners in East Asia. So it would be a whole lot of work to send this giant vessel across the ocean than just to bring it back with a bunch of moldy, gross grain. So they have to be pretty careful on why they do it. But why not do it out of a more sunny place like Los Angeles or Oakland? Well, we're about 276 miles more west and very far north, and on the scale of the globe, that was both of them. All right, I'm loving the crowd. Okay, so yes, Dr. Meredith Gray, the house that she lived in as an intern, does exist up in Queen Anne. However, if you go track it down and you knock on the door, however, Dr. Fraser, his whole thing took place in luxury high-rise apartments in the neighborhood of Queen Anne. One thing missing from Queen Anne is luxury high-rise apartments. So, finished construction in 1962, just right before the Seattle World's Fair. Designed to be the centerpiece for that World's Fair. Now, the Space Needle is one of my favorite buildings here in the skyline. Of course, you know, it's an icon and everyone likes that about it, but what I like about it is actually how it was built. It's got one of its pieces here in Olympic National Park. The park itself is actually a sculpture, though. If you look, you'll see a very dry, rugged representing Eastern Washington, and then a lush green grass representing Western Washington. That oldest pier on the waterfront, built in 1903, still has some of its original wood pilings. It's more notoriously known for the life that it lived in the early 1990s, though. Any MTV fans of the real world, well, that's where Pier 70 comes in handy there. It was actually the filming studio for the Real World of Seattle in the 1995 season there. Now there's a little bit of a kicker here. One, you're not allowed to take up permanent construction delays, had to do a little bit more planning, permit delays. Anything that could really throw a wrench in the process, they had to deal with it. So since their original idea was out the window, their next idea came right through the window. They all gathered around a table and they said, you know what? What if we allow our guests to fish outside of our windows? So, your neighbor above you decides he hooks into a fish. It's a 10-pound salmon. That's it, 10-pound salmon is slapping against your window. Wildlife magazine fishing out of the Edgewater windows right there on that gray side. So it's a pretty cool thing if you guys want to give Google to Beagle Seattle. That'll probably be the first image that you see. Now the Norwegian Encore here is probably one of my favorite cruise ships that we get in port. It's got a lot of great features on it. So if you look up on top of it, it's got a couple of structures. You know, we're gonna have a water slide, but then just behind the water slide, that black superstructure that we see is an onboard go-kart track. And kudos to the Norwegian Encore team because they got together and they said, what if we allowed our guests to get seasick and car sick at the same time? Now, just ahead of us, up the hillside, about 3/4 of, well, maybe about a third of the way, you're going to notice a white building with a woman's face on it. And then on the back side of it, that cluster of buildings is known as the backside of Pike Place Market. I know most brought an influx of people to the city of Seattle. The population doubled between the years 1890 and 1900. And so the middlemen would buy from the farmers and then come to the city and sell goods to the miners at an outrageous price. It got as bad as about $35 for a pound of onions. Farmers heard about this. They did. Throughout her time here, she's the only known sea otter in the entire world to ever get a case of sea otter asthma. So we had really bad wildfires in 2015, and they taught each guy it's time for a nap. They take their nap on their back in pairs, holding hands. That act is called rafting, and it's so that they don't lose their significant otter. All right, Captain Bill taking it in, but I want to let you guys know I really had enjoyed this time out here. I'll be the last face you guys see before you disembark. But thanks again for coming on this vlog tour. It's been an absolute pleasure.